Well, hello, everyone. I am Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. This week, we're not talking about any sad playoff team that's failing Minnesota. We are talking Minnesota Lynx basketball and the hope of a new future. We have Leah B. Olsen joining us, so we're going to be going on the upswing this week.
This will be a lot of fun. I saw Leah on Sunday night at the Lynx game, where she continues to build her career that has now gone national. We're going to talk about Olivia Miles, the Lynx, some other stuff going on around the league. This is Dawn of Sports. She's Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at talknorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities and Lucy Nicotine Pouches and the Minnesota Twins. Dawn, take it away.
All right. Well, Leah, I thank you so much for joining us again in the midst of every craziness that you have going on. How is it that you're feeling right now? Got a couple of games under your belt in the WNBA and the Lynx season off and running. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on again. Yeah, it feels good to kind of finally get rolling with the WNBA season. It felt like there was such a long period of time of like not knowing what was going to happen with the season. And then all of a sudden it was just chaos trying to get to the season. And so now it's just kind of a relief. We're just playing basketball. And so I'm splitting my time from doing Lynx games and then doing national WNBA. So I've bounced around a little bit, but the league's in good shape. There's been some good basketball already early on, just 4 games in. So pretty fun.
Yeah, and I love that too. It sounds like the crowds have been showing up early and all of that. So, we know that that's going to happen, but to actually see it after all of the CBA talk and all of that stuff, and especially here in Minnesota, where I think people have spent a lot of money on some playoff tickets for other teams that you thought maybe they'd be crowd weary, but they're not.
Yeah, I've been impressed with that. I did a couple of preseason games, and those games were crowded. And so when people are interested in preseason, that's always a good sign. I did a game in Seattle for preseason, and that was really full. And then, of course, the Portland Fire had a sellout of like 19,000, which was the biggest sellout that's ever been at a WNBA game for opening day. So we're kind of seeing signs, with the new teams as well. And then I thought the Lynx have had good crowds. The lower bowl has been consistently packed for their first two home games.
Mm. And as advertised, Olivia Miles has been sensational. And we knew that it might take a couple of games for the rookie to find her place. It didn't. Like, first game, bam. Second game, bam. She's already breaking records. Unbelievable. And she seems like she's relaxed and having fun doing it this early as well. So it's so cool to see a top draft pick pan out so quickly. Don't you agree?
It's so rare to see any rookie play this well, this quickly in any league, really. So when you see it, it's just super exciting. It's just a joy to watch her play. And what struck me about her, since I've had the opportunity to interview her a couple of times and then I've watched all of her games, is just her maturity. She doesn't, she feels like an old soul, and she loves the game, and she talks about, not only did she learn her game from, the likes of Lindsay Whalen and Sue Bird and those folks, but then she has a list of NBA players that she has admired her whole career, that she's taken things from. And just the way she speaks about the game tells you that she really, really knows and is invested in all areas of the game, which is really cool to see, because usually just rookies are just overwhelmed for the most part. She is not overwhelmed. I think in the game, watching her kind of attack in certain areas, I just think it's really exciting to watch, because she is not intimidated. She's willing to go downhill. She's willing to go up against 6'7" Cardoso, not in the least bit intimidated. So just all these little things that you notice about her, just kind of wise beyond her years.
I'm glad you said that, because I forget if it was the second game or not, but so Cheryl Reeve pulled her aside, was chatting, not that they pulled her out, they're just talking to her a little bit, and you see her nodding. And so what and then you saw Cheryl smile. So whatever Cheryl told her to do, she went out and she corrected it immediately. You would know better than I. So when you're calling just these first few games, have you noticed that? Where like if there might be something she needs to work on, she goes out there and all of a sudden Cheryl's like nodding, like she
Yes.
appreciates that she corrected it that fast.
Yes, and a couple of different times Cheryl Reeve has talked about that she's very curious and she's willing to ask questions. And I think a lot of times rookies don't want to do that because they don't want to be embarrassed that they don't know the things. And she asks everything all the time. And but then really understands what they're saying. You know, it's one thing just to throw a bunch of questions out there, but then to understand what they're saying and then to try and go out and do that. Nafisa Collier did a lot of that in her first year too, where you're like, wait a minute, I just saw her learn that in practice today, and then she did it in a game.
Yeah.
And so she had that, but you know, Olivia might be even further ahead than where Phee was her rookie season.
Mhm.
So it's just really cool to see. The thing I think she has that you can't teach is court vision. I mean, you just have it or you don't. And she has it in a really, really unique way. I mean, she can see the lane so clearly that her passing, like she's comfortable in doing, you know, behind the back passes and sidearm passes and all of these things already because she can quickly see and assess how to get the ball through the players and into the lane. And that is just something I always just want to know, like, what is it about your brain that allows you to see that? But she has it.
Yeah, and you know what I've really enjoyed too, and we knew this would happen just because of her personality, but Courtney Williams has like just kind of scooped her around her arm, you know, like under her wing, but also they're already laughing, having fun. She's really made this partnership early. And, you know, Olivia, you can tell appreciates that, but I think this is genuine from Courtney.
Well, Courtney Williams is absolutely relieved to step away from the point guard position. She said it. And she said it yesterday and shoot around that. It really, she can play. I mean, she played point guard last night. Obviously, when Olivia sits, she's going to play it. But she really prefers the two spot. And that's where she shines. I mean, that
Mhm.
is her game. But so she talked about just having a lot of relief to be able to hand it to someone like Olivia who really understood it and got it. And I liked, and I thought it was interesting that Coach Reeves' staff had made the decision to give it to Olivia from game one rather than having her kind of slowly work her way into it. And so from the get go, the first game of the season, Olivia knew this was her ship and that
Mhm.
she was in charge of it. And so there's probably some confidence that goes along with that as well, right? Being trusted with
Mhm.
the keys so early. But yeah, so the fit with Courtney is perfect. She's happy for her. She is happy to slide over to that two slot. And it's been fun watching how they play together. And then just the different people, you know, when we have Nafisa Collier and Olivia Miles on the floor together, that should be really special to watch.
Yeah. So, how is it team wise when those roles, not even just for the guards, but for the rest of the team, when those roles are already pre established before you hit game one?
Well, I think everyone understands it because it's so clear. You
Yeah.
know, in most cases, that's just not the situation. In most cases, you kind of have to see who is the best, who's best late in games, who's
Uh-huh.
best with certain players, all of those things. But I think as soon as Olivia got here for training camp, it was just so evident that she understood what was happening, that she was playing full speed, that she got and understood the concepts the way that the Lynx like to play. There's definitely been mistakes. There's definitely been um, some conversations. That's just normal. That's how you learn the game. So I think in this case, in this instance, made sense to everyone across the board.
Now, you brought up Nafisa a couple of times because you can't talk links without talking Nafisa. I really wanted to pick your brain. I'm so glad you're on our show this week because everyone is talking about how Nafisa answered that one question about why she just signed a 1-year deal. Um, I maybe I tend to be an underreactor. I always have been my whole life. I'm always like, let me figure this out first. I wasn't the one going, oh, this is horrible, because I know how the CBA was structured. I know how some women were just signing 1-year deals because they want to see how it shakes out money-wise. It doesn't mean that she doesn't love the team, but from your perspective, what did you glean off that when she didn't say, oh my gosh, yes, I want to? I think fans are just wanting to say, like, I love the Lynx. This is my only place. But they have to remember it's a business. So I was more on the underreactive to her reaction.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in a perfect world for the Minnesota Lynx, yes, she immediately signs,
Yeah.
for the rest of her career, and we're all super happy. The most logical move for her was to do what she just did,
Yeah.
because that's just what you should do. And I'm sure that's what her team and her accountants and her husband and everyone who surrounds her, I'm sure that's what the advice was, because you want options
Uh-huh.
and choices, and you don't know what this team is going to be like. You don't know. Um, coaching staffs, like people are leaving or staying or whatever, you just don't know. And so I think it was the smartest decision that she could make for herself and her family.
Right. And it doesn't mean anything. Like, I think when people just want to, even some media people jump on that, you have to separate that business from like the emotions of whether or not you want to come back, or whether, I think even you look
Yeah.
at any other sport, you have to separate that, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do. I think, I'm sure there was some hurt feelings a little bit, just because
Oh,
that was the hope for the Lynx, right? That she
yeah.
would say, yes, of course, you can offer me as much money as anybody else. I'll take that and go. And there's obviously more to it than that for her. She's got a huge, huge career, and to handle it takes a lot of thought. And
Uh-huh.
so to me, it just wouldn't, when you can wait, it just wouldn't make sense not to.
Uh, the popular rumor going around Lynx fandom and people you see at the stadium is that Phee, and I don't know if this, I'm not going to say this is fact. This is kind of more of a logical rumor. Phee wants to see how Lori and Rodriguez treat the Lynx, whether they invest in them, whether they care about them, whether they are driven to win with the Lynx the way they are driven to win with the Timberwolves. That's one theory. Another theory is that Phee might not have loved it that that Alex Rodriguez kind of outed himself as a Trumper. I think there's a lot of intriguing stuff going on there. Also, Phee runs a business based in Miami, and she's not
Oh.
from Minnesota. I think there are a lot of interesting tendrils to this one. So we'll see how it plays out. Let's take care of our business here really quickly. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities. Welcome to one of our newer sponsors, Lucy Nicotine Pouches.
Hi, this is Kevin Gorgon. I wanted to introduce you to a product a lot of my friends have been using lately called Lucy. Lucy is a premium tobacco-free nicotine pouch that comes in a variety of strengths and flavors, so there's an option for just about everyone. What makes it stand out is the flavor experience, especially with Lucy Breakers, which have a built-in flavor capsule you crack for an instant extra burst. That's what makes Lucy different. It's the only pouch delivering long-lasting, on-demand flavor, giving you a unique experience every time. Get 20% off your first order at lucy.co/dawn with the promo code DAWN. And if you don't want to wait, check out the store locator to find Lucy near you and grab it today. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of a legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
And if you've been paying any attention to the Minnesota Twins, they have some great young pitching, and they have Byron Buxton tearing it up right now. So this might be a good time to go to the ballpark.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
And back to Dawn.
Jim, you brought up the interesting tendrils, and the one thing I also notice, we always know that Fee's been a tremendous basketball player, but she's also kind of had this other business side and personal side glow up in many respects. Whether it's the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, all of
Yes.
that. Some of these athletes like to go to maybe a bigger stage, so to speak. Yes, they want championships, right? You can speak to that, Leah. They want that obviously basketball wise, but they might want to be in LA or New York. I don't know if that plays into something like that when you see that side of them taking off.
And Phee still hasn't gotten a championship yet either.
Yes.
So that's got to be top of mind.
Yeah.
And what this roster looks like next year, how this team does this year. Do they get another draft pick? Do they have all of those things are a huge question mark. And so if it gets to the point, and this is just my opinion on it, not hers, if it gets to the point where she's just kind of chasing a championship, then you want flexibility and being able to find where is the team who can bring you in all of those things. So leaving things open, it really, to me, it only made sense that way. So I will say my reaction was like yours. It wasn't much of a reaction. I understand absolutely why it's a conversation piece, because I'm sure, especially a lot of Lynx fans were probably pretty disappointed when they didn't see her immediately sign.
And she's not the only one that only signed a one-year deal. There's so many of the players throughout the league just coming off of the CBA and what it looks like and financially that you don't want to get locked in. So you get locked in, you know what your raises are. If you only take a one-year deal and you see how it all shifts down, then you can see where the pot of gold is. I just think that way. Even in TV with contracts that way too. Do you want a 5 or a 10, or do you want a 2 and see where your money can come,
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and this is a moving market. Everything about this is moving for Phee. But, first and foremost, she has to get healthy. And I think that's kind of, for me, the most important piece of like how quickly can she get back this season, and what that looks like for the team and how her game looks and all of those things. Like that to me is kind of the most daunting thing that she's facing right now.
Yeah, supposedly June, they said at first. Is that still on target from what you hear?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if June is just the mark of when like she can come back and start practicing,
Oh.
or if June means we expect her on the court, which means then we need to have her practicing, 2 or so weeks before that. So I think that's the interesting piece of what June actually means.
Can I get your reaction on how bad the season-ending injury and to Emma, and I don't know if it's Chechova or Chechova, I think it's Chechova, if I'm saying it
Yeah.
if I'm saying it the right way. Um, First of all, my heart breaks for anyone that you're in the first week of basketball and you're out for the year, but, how they may have built this team this year with her in mind.
Yeah, super bummer, ACL injury.
Mm.
So, not as bad, obviously, as an Achilles, but and dependent upon once they get in there, she hasn't had surgery yet. What it looks like is when you can start gauging the amount of time. But, next season would be what it would be. So, um, yes, it was such a bummer because one, she's just so young, and I just hate that she has to go through that process at this
Yeah.
age and just getting accustomed to being here. And obviously English is a second language, and it's just such a struggle. And so hard for these athletes to do that. So I felt super bad for her, but they were relying on her pretty significantly because the front court without Phee and without Dorka is really super thin. And Natasha Howard is like our big right now. And, she's playing way out of position if you have to put her at the 5 spot. So, yeah, so that was a bummer. Obviously the worst part of the game is seeing all these players go down with injuries, and but it was a blow to the team just because they were going to lean on her pretty significantly.
How much of a shift for you is it to now not only think about like specific teams, but you got to know everything. You got to you got to take whatever game matchup that you're in and drill down. And I know that you already followed the league anyway, but to get into those nitty gritty specifics, how has that been for you?
Well, what I like about it is it's kind of easier to follow the league this way, the way that I'm doing it now, because when I'm just doing links, I can kind of go game by game by game and then be like, okay, we're first time seeing Chicago. Let me go back and watch 3 of their games. And I saw them once play at the start of the season. I'll go back and kind of do it that way, where now I'm in the midst of it all the time, watching and seeing different teams. So like already this year, I've seen Portland, I've seen Seattle, I've seen LA, I've seen Indiana. And so it makes it so much easier to cover the league overall, just because you're just constantly looking at teams, seeing their players, being in their gyms, watching their shoot-arounds. So I've really enjoyed that piece of it. And then it helps, obviously, my Lynx broadcasts, just because when those teams arrive in Minnesota, I'm prepared for them. And it's kind of cool for me after all these years of watching Minnesota practices and shoot-arounds to just see how other teams do it. I was chuckling and we were in Indiana's shoot-around the other day, and Stephanie White, their head coach, at the end of shoot-arounds, they always do the half-court shot. Most teams do that. I think that they had to change the rules up and make it different because Caitlin Clark always wins. And so they had made it so convoluted of how to make it harder for her. And then, of course, she still won. She did this whole thing where she was, just as happy as she could be, jumping on the stanchion, jumping up and down like she is a competitor through and through. But so that kind of stuff is really fun to be in other people's shoot-arounds and gyms.
They might have to tie one hand behind her back and put a blindfold on her and then do it by those rules.
That's
Lord
what
have mercy.
It was like. Yeah.
I think it's cool too, where I always tend to like to follow the women that have left. I think Bridget BC has really kind of resurrected her game early in this year, just with a couple of games that I have seen. And some people, they kind of get down on that, like, oh, of course she left us. She having a great game. I love it to see them go somewhere else, and not when they're playing the Lynx, obviously. But what have you noticed from any maybe former Lynx
Yes.
players that seem to be finding their groove elsewhere?
So I watched Natisha Heidemann in preseason, the second of the stud buds.
Yes.
And so she was, she had a really great game the other night. She's stepping into a starting role where they're asking her to do more. Bridget Carlton, as you mentioned, they're building a team around.
Yes.
And so it's going to be really super interesting to see, can these players lift up to that level? Because sometimes it is just about opportunity. And sometimes it's about, well, even if with the opportunity, that's not necessarily your game. And so, but so far, those two have played really well. And then we saw Jessica Shepard and Alana Smith are in Dallas with Paige Beckers. And Alana Smith, I don't know what happened. I'll have to go look, but she's wearing a mask on her face.
Oh.
So she's had a slower start. So I don't know if she broke her nose, but she's had a slower start. Jessica Shepard is starting for that Dallas team and looks pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. I saw that, I don't know, Paige lobbed something to Lan in one of the games. And so I was just noticing, like, oh my gosh, Paige, she just nails those passes, right? And then all Lan had to do was either lay it up or put it back in there. So I didn't even notice her face. But I'm like, oh, Lan is loving that. The Paige can be getting her the ball down low. So, yeah, I didn't even notice that. How odd is that?
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But it's interesting to see those players because can they Coach Reeve even said it, I think they got more attention because of how they played in her system and the way that she developed them as players. And then that's why everyone came raiding their roster when it was free agency time. And so I am curious to see overall how they all end up doing in these new spots.
Yeah, that is very interesting, to be honest with you. It's almost like when you think about the Vikings defense with like Brian Flores, the way he's unique about how he uses talent, they can go to a different team. And if they're not used in that way, they may not shine the same way. But that's kind of the inherent risk that you take anyway
Anyway,
when you go to a different team, right?
that's exactly right. And that's where I think college basketball is kind of so upside down with all their movement, is because it's almost impossible to get situated every year somewhere else. We understand the state of what's happening there with NIL, but it also that experience from the player standpoint really drops when you're learning a new system every year.
How do you feel this expansion has affected, everyone's like, oh, if you expand too fast,
Not
it's going
right
to hurt
now.
the
We
league. I
haven't.
have not
I'll
seen
be
any
curious to
evidence
see,
of that.
the next few years. I actually think there are enough players to keep the game really good. I still think like the bigger thing that needed to happen before expansion though was just adding on to the rosters, because like right now, like we now get 2 development players. I mean, the Lynx are already deep into that. And so with all
Yeah.
of the physicality and all of the injuries, having more players sit on your bench to me was even more important than bringing in new franchises. But they did both of those things. So there is more opportunity, which is why also you're seeing more foreign players over here right now. Most teams, have a few different foreign players. And so there's definitely more opportunity, but it's still super hard to make a roster.
Have they done anything? I know it's just so early in the year. We usually don't hear about this until like the playoffs and stuff like that. But have they done anything to address any aforementioned referee issues? Because I know that they said we're going to do proper more training, we're going to switch things up. But has anything really happened?
Yes. So this
Okay.
year has been officiated completely different than last
Mhm.
year, with the focus being on freedom of movement, meaning that they want offensive players to be able to do what they're supposed to do, because that's what the fans usually like to watch, is great offense, and not just having um, physical play on offensive players is what they are supposed to be really changing their whistle on.
Mhm.
What's happened in the first couple of weeks is that they've blown the whistle on everything.
Okay.
So usually WNBA games are almost to a T, 2 hours or 2:05. And this year they've leaked into like 2:30, 2:40, one of them was.
Mm.
And that's all extra calls. So that's not making anybody happy. But I think there's just going to be this kind of, until the players get used to, you cannot touch anybody defensively. You certainly can't touch them with 2 hands. Then they are, but the key was supposed to be getting rid of the physical play, that really, post play, that knocking people down, all of those things, the way Nafisa Collier got injured. Right now, they're kind of calling everything. So hopefully that will kind of settle in here, probably more midway season.
Do you like that or do you not like that?
I don't like watching games that have 40, 50 fouls.
No, but you want some level of physicality. Obviously, you don't want it to be brutish where people are getting hurt, especially not your top stars. But it always seems to be with any boundary or new rule, there has to be that. Okay, they call it too much, and then it'll
Yes.
ease into a nice grace period, right?
Yeah, it
Hopefully.
takes for sure, it takes some getting used to, and I think the players have to they're the ones who are making the adjustment, and they've played a certain way for a while, and they will figure out how to do this. The other thing that players try to do is you try to take advantage of the whistles like that as well, so it's like they're kind of sussing it out for themselves. It will settle in, but yeah, the first couple games I was like, "Oh, wow. This is kind of brutal." But yes, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we don't want to have like new rules put in, like baseball, to speed this thing back up.
Yes, exactly.
Like a 3-second rule to get down the court. Like, come on. Before we let you go, I would really love to get your take on how you think as a coach Cheryl Reeve has changed. I know we've seen her win championships. We know that she has proven herself as a gold medal winning coach now in the Olympics. Courtney Williams has kind of past couple seasons has brought out her fun side. She says that, like, really, I can have fun. I'm not like that. Sometimes success and a proven track record and kind of making yourself kind of a legend while you're still coaching helps. But how has she changed you're around them a lot. How has she changed in your perspective?
I would say she has mellowed a little
Mm.
bit. I haven't seen her mellow a lot if she's losing. She don't like to lose.
She's taking her jacket off and whipping it around.
Yeah, she is that coach. She's never going to be real comfortable with losing, so
Right.
that's a reality. But like I do think, I think the Nafisa Collier years is when I first noticed that she was a lot more chill and just easygoing with Phee, and just kind of understood how difficult and what it was going to take to win another championship. But like
Mhm.
she just so clearly knows the recipe for it, and it's just so evident in that when players follow what she says, even the teams like these Lynx the last few years that you didn't really think would necessarily be in the running for a finals or at least a semifinals, she had them ready. So
Mhm.
I think there's just some confidence and calmness in knowing what you know, and like you said, being respected. I mean, there isn't a game that goes by that people don't mention her coaching, her impact on the league. This season, she should become the winningest coach, passing Tebow by in many categories. She already is, but so she is all of those things, and so I think there is some sense of like you can just enjoy that a little bit.
Mm.
So that's what I would say, just a little bit more mellow than those earlier years, but still with her, the same intensity and want to win. And now that she knows how to do that, it's probably, still very frustrating when players don't follow the advice to do it that way.
Well, from the outside looking in, for me, it also seems that she's made this masterful is kind of a weird word to throw out there from someone like I haven't coached, but a masterful way of identifying the new player. Like players now have a different mentality than even when the WNBA first started,
Mhm.
and I would say players across all generations and all different sports. It's a different kind of player now, and you have to coach them maybe a little bit differently, and I think I've noticed that as well. But that, again, that's my perspective from not being, in the innards of a team and noticing that. Do you see that?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. She has players that are, I don't know, Nafisa Collier and Olivia Miles and Maya Moore and all these players. I mean, like those players were eager to be coached,
Mhm.
wanted to be coached hard, didn't react to her intensity. So, like, she has had just the great advantage of having those unique, great, great players. I think the rest of everyone, the more kind of just every regular players, I think that those are the more challenging players to coach, right?
Mm.
Players that may kind of come in and out of the league, maybe play 2 or 3 or 4 years, that type of thing, is trying to figure out how they think, what makes them comfortable. Her Coach Reeves' philosophy is that coaching is 95% relationship building. And so it's all about figuring out who these people are, what makes them tick, how you connect with them, and then the rest of it's the X's and O's stuff. So I think she is figuring out how to master this next young generation.
Well, when you were a player, were you motivated by the coaches that yelled at you or the ones that got to know you and like, "Oh, now that doesn't work for Leah." Like for any coach or anything for me, if you yell at me, I shut down. Like
Right.
even my mom didn't yell at us unless
Yeah.
she was calling us for dinner, right? Because we were like loud or somewhere like down the street. But if she was mad, she lowered her voice. So anyone that yells and comes at me that way, they get the reverse reaction that they think they would.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think Coach Reeve probably first learned that when Sylvia Fowles came to Minnesota. She was one, people were kind of wondering why Sylvia Fowles wasn't as great as everyone knew and that she could be. I mean, she had already had a good career. And it was one of the things about Syl is you can't yell at her. And she's really, really hard on herself. And to yell at her is to break her down. And so Coach Reeve did not yell at her. And so, like, some coaches don't do that. Some coaches just yell across the board, and that's who they are, and that's what it was. But I think Cheryl Reeve really realized that that's not how she was going to get the best out of Sweet Syl, you know?
Yeah.
Now, Maya Moore, on the other hand, got yelled at a lot, which makes me laugh because, like, who would yell at Maya Moore? But apparently sometimes you had to yell at Maya Moore. But yeah, so just kind of knowing when and when to come in and out.
I didn't think that would work with Maya, but okay.
Yeah, Maya didn't care.
Yeah.
No, Maya would just go to, Cheryl always told me that she'd, the number of times that Maya ran the wrong play or went the wrong direction and then just hit a three. It's like, no, Maya. Oh, okay.
Yes, Maya. Yeah. That's exactly right. No one had any idea that she had run that wrong play.
Nope.
It's like Anthony Edwards, right? Yeah, with Finchie. It's like, no. Oh, okay, hit a three.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Don't shoot, Dov. Okay, he made it. Okay.
You want me to shoot. Yeah.
Well, Leah, I've really enjoyed watching you, not only on the Lynx broadcast, but I've tuned in a couple of the other things. So I'm just talk about having a chance again to shine in a bigger light. I'm really enjoying this. So you're just scratching the surface, and I'm so excited for you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah, we will have you on again as hopefully the season progresses on and the Lynx get better and better and Olivia Miles continues to wow.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for.
All right. Well,
Leah is we have a lot of cool guests on this show. Leah is a regular contributor and part of TalkNorth.com. We're very grateful to have her and happy to have her. And yeah, like Dawn, I found myself watching an NBA game last week and I heard Leah's voice. I thought that was really cool. I expect a lot more of that. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you to Leah. We do appreciate it. And we will talk to you again soon.